Everybody. I'm Spence Kramer. I'm so humbled and grateful to be here, first of all, at SwitchPoint. I'm an old man and I've never seen anything like this in my career. This is incredible, this conference and you people, and I'm humbled to be on this stage. I'm also grateful to reconnect with some friends that I met 25 years ago in New York City, Heather and Tom and Julie and Aaron. It is terrific to see you guys, and thanks so much for having me. I went to a little school called Duke University. Go to hell, Carolina. I couldn't be on a stage in Carolina country and not say that. Despite the fact that I majored in bongo drums and bong hits, I managed to graduate, and I kind of backed into a career in advertising. A bunch of us talked yesterday about how lucky we were to be where we are in our careers, and I truly believe that I'm probably the most fortunate man in the room in terms of being in the right place at the right time. And a lot of that fortune has to do with my relationship to working on brands. So it is not without a small dose of irony that I'm going to tell you, and mostly tell companies, to stop thinking so much about their brand. I have been lucky enough to I worked at ESPN for a long time, which was a dream come true. I helped launch an airline called Virgin America here in the States. I ran the global advertising business for both Coca-Cola and Nike, and now I'm the chief executive of J. Walter Thompson in Atlanta. Pardon me, I don't know how to manage to clear my throat when this thing is right here, so I'm going to pretend like you can't hear that. This goes with a tiny bit of a warning, this presentation, in that I am managing a whole group of people, and I don't want them to work on stuff that's non-billable. I want them to get paid for what they do. So I actually made this presentation myself and learned the program 6 days ago. So if you promise not to make fun of me for either the quality or the content of this presentation, I promise I will not make fun of you for wasting 12 minutes of your life watching it. Stop making fun of your brand. I'm sorry, stop thinking about your brand. Go ahead and make fun of your brand. Make fun of it all you want. Companies, please, for the love of God, stop telling us that you care about us as the consumer, the block of people known as the consumer. Stop showing us that you're trying to create a brand experience. You know what? There's no such thing as a brand experience. This thing right here has never had an experience in his life. The only experience that this has is when it's sitting in my hand and I own it. This is what we need to start thinking about as companies. The how, why, where, and when every single one of us touches you as a company and your brand in his or her own way. There have been a couple eras in marketing. This was the first. This is sort of the old Henry Ford Model T. We have it. If you want it, you get it. It's the old quote, you can have it in any color you want as long as it's black. It's kind of like, you know what, fuck you. Here's our car, buy it or don't. The next wave of marketing communication is kind of where we are now, with a couple of exceptions that I'll get to. This is more of the assault of branding. Companies talk about, we're going to hit the consumer at every touch point. And it pleases their marketing people, and it pleases their boards of directors. And, you know, hey, let's build an app. Let's get on Facebook. Let's make sure we have really great point of sale. Let's make sure our advertising budget is optimized. And what it does do is it really butters the bread solely of the company, proving to itself how smart it is. This is more, I believe, in keeping what a smart communication strategy can be. This is effectively a more pluralist view, And if I had learned the way to make the arrows go in both directions, I would have actually made the arrows go in both directions, but I didn't learn that. So imagine this slide with the arrows going in both directions. This is, companies need to talk to us as individuals. This is not about a block. It's about a pluralist, as I said, experiential-based. How do you, Spence, relate to me, iPhone, as a consumer? A buddy of mine, one of my best hires in my career, is that handsome fella in the blazer sitting right over there. Rakib, raise your hand. I brought Rakib with me. He is the newish 5 or 6 month old head of brand experience and consumer experience at J. Walter Thompson in Atlanta. I have to leave after this conference. He's going to stay. I really encourage you to get to know Rakib. He genuinely is one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. Just don't hire him. If anybody hires him, I'll be really upset about that, and I'll find out. Rakib calls this brutal empathy. Excuse me, it's about getting granular about how consumers experience a brand and its products, down to every interaction. Obviously, one of the apex examples of this is the Apple example. Apple, this is a summation of Apple's stock price over the years. The biggest bumps in Apple's stock price have happened not when it releases hardware, but when it releases service. In particular, when it made the operating system free for its users compared to other OSs that are still costing money. This is really the value of Apple. Another value of Apple, this happened to me recently, although not this extreme, but you drop your iPhone in the ocean, you go to the store, buy a new iPhone, and magically every Spotify playlist you ever created, and every picture you ever had, and every song you ever wanted, and every email you ever sent is in your hand. That is a service that is aimed at me, the consumer. Apple could easily say, here's another $700 product, good luck, but they don't. There are other companies that are doing this exceptionally well. I'm a consumer of many of these, and I haven't actually tried a couple of these. Amazon is something that I'm one of these people that buys toilet paper on Amazon Prime. Spotify has completely changed my life. I'm a massive music fan, lover, and sometime player, and the world is at my fingertips for $9 a month. I am likely to buy, I've never experienced Carvana, but after 30 seconds on their website, I know that the next car that I buy is going to be through Carvana. And if you don't know what Carvana is, it's a place where you get a car delivered to you and you can drive it for a week and then decide whether or not you want to buy it. And you have spec'd out the car exactly the way you want it, they find it for you, bring it to your house, and they say, see you in a week. That to me is, that's the definition of personal experience with a company. Does anybody know what Qualtrics is? Raise your hand if you've heard of Qualtrics. That's impressive. I had not. I love what Ryan Smith has talked about, though. Everything comes down to the experience people have with their brands. And then I looked up Ryan Smith, and I kind of couldn't believe it. He's part dude and part bro. And so I kept digging into Ryan Smith, and you know what, the guy's company is valued over many billions of dollars, so I don't begrudge him much. But he knows where it's at, and obviously I'm not the only person talking about this. People are choosing experience over price or experience over brand. We're living in an experience economy. Does anybody know who this is? Okay, this is Bharat Anand. He is a professor at Harvard Business School, although Rakib told me at breakfast that I may get laughed at by a pronunciation of Bharat Anand. Evidently it's Bharat Anand. Close enough. Yeah, this just goes to show you. And again, this is the way that people are now thinking that is really making sense to me, and it's something that I want to honestly model my career on. This idea of user centricity, coined by marketers as an excuse for let's focus on the user, but what it has turned into is just the mass wallpapering of brand messages. Do we think that these guys here have a relationship with the Coca-Cola company by virtue of their proximity to it here. This is the definition of wallpaper. You may not be able to see this clearly. That's some examples, screen grabs of websites. That's Tide, Pop-Tarts, Dixon Ticonderoga. That's a florist in my neighborhood in Atlanta. That's my sister's hair salon in Pensacola, Florida, the Cat House. Anybody know what these have in common? What am I trying to get at here with this image? It's this. They want us to like them on Facebook, right? Or God forbid, tell us your story on Facebook. Well, I spilled a cup of coffee, and I pulled out 2 Bounty paper towels, and I cleaned it up, and I threw it away. That's my fucking Bounty story on Facebook. Now, what kind of relationship am I creating with the brand at that point? I'm not begrudging Facebook. I love Facebook. In fact, some people would call me a super user on Facebook, apologetically, unapologetically, 2,386 friends. This is my actual Facebook page from the other day. I think Facebook is fantastic. Julie and I were talking the other day about the fact that, we haven't seen each other in years, but we know a lot about one another because we're seeing each other through social media. I am all for social media. I just think that the mothership is letting companies and encouraging companies to use social media in a way that is really only self-serving. And when I was a kid, my father had an expression when I did something stupid. He said, son, that's dumber than 11 bags of shit. And I couldn't find a graphic for 11 bags of shit, so I kind of modernized it a little bit. And by the way, I think I should probably pause here. In the context of all the altruism and the import that you guys are going to experience in this conference, I'm pretty sure this is the only speech you'll see with poop emojis. I'm guessing. It really boils down to this. Great brands ask themselves this question: how am I adding value to the lives of people through their experience with my brand at every single moment? I learned how to make the font bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and read it again. How am I adding value to the lives of people through their experience with my brand? It really boils down to that. It's their experience with my brand. One of the smartest people I've ever met, and one of the most charismatic and handsome, came up with this quote, which is, CRM is everything and everything is CRM. That's just another way to say, start thinking a little bit more about the people that are using your products. I would like to rename CRM. I'd like to call it PRM or IRM, people relationship marketing, or individual. I'd like to call it BRM for Bill relationship marketing, or J for Julie relationship marketing. I really think that it boils down to pulling yourself out of this kind of mass thinking about your group and allowing yourself to engage with them via experiences. The problem is, it's hard. It's really hard. And I think that if I could leave you with one very simple kind of primer, this is how I measure absolutely everything in my professional life. Is it simple? Is it true? And is it inspirational? 2 + 2 is 4 is simple and it's true. Not that interesting. It's true, and it's easy. E = mc squared. Simple, true, holy crap, right? That, to me, is the difference between successful communications and not successful communications. There's a company that I think does this better than anybody, and they can certainly tell their story better than I. And so the last thing I have is a spot that was done a couple years ago, and this is Airbnb. Airbnb, I'm pals with the CMO. I love what this company stands for in terms of equality and inclusion. I have experienced great Airbnb stays in my life. I think that Airbnb is a kind of a benchmark. Not necessarily because of any one of those things, more because what better example of talking about and messaging the idea of a consumer experience than have your entire company be about consumer experience. I think they do it beautifully. And this is that.
Don't go to Paris. don't tour Paris. And please don't do Paris. Live in Paris. When you Airbnb in Paris, you have your own home. Make your bed. Cook. You know, the stuff you normally do. Don't go to LA. Don't go to New York. Don't go to Tokyo. Live there. Live in Malibu. Live in the East Village. Live in Shinagawa. Feel at home. Anywhere. Do your regular routine. Wherever you go, don't go there. Live there. Even if it's just for a night.
Again, folks, I'm Spence Kramer. I'm so humbled and grateful to be here. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.